What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Review for Summertime Rendering. This is episode 15, and with me, as always, I have Bluespit.
So the episode, immediately picks up after the events of the last episode, in which I predicted correctly that Shinpei was shot in the head with a sniper rifle.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were right about that. I wasn't exactly sure what happened, but I kind of figured that might have been the case, considering how quickly he. Mostly because he died and we didn't know what happened to him. So I guess that was the only likely possibility because, as we know, Nezu got killed and his rifle was most likely taken from him.
Yeah. And we get to learn a lot about how Shinpei's looping ability works in much more detail. In the last episode, we saw images of Shinpei supposedly looking behind some kind of crumbling cliff, and it has something to do with him looping back over and over again. So the episode skips right back into the same gymnasium in which he was talking to everyone. So he brings everyone back together again, and he goes.
Well, before that, we should kind of explain Shinpei does end up back at his house, it seems. And then he's kind of there. That's where he sort of, I guess, starts to explain what's going on with his looping abilities to Ushio and Mio. Where he basically he does explain more about it later in the episode, but he says that the way it works is that every time he loops, he gets, if he doesn't really progress enough, then he will get closer and closer to the edge of this, of the edge of this cliff to where he'll eventually just fall into the darkness, and then he'll no longer be able to loop. So he's kind of, I guess he figures that he only has this one more loop until he can no longer loop anymore.
I mean, it's possible he can still loop back. It's just he needs to progress further than.
I was a little bit confused about that because was it Shide mentions later in the episode that he has one more loop. I guess after the one he's in this episode. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this being the one last loop. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's still possible he can go further beyond, based on what happened in this episode, but yeah, the entire and they also mentioned there's a limited distance that a shadow can copy a projectile firing weapon, which explains why they use Nezu's sniper rifle instead of copying it for example, if they were to shoot a gun, it can only travel up to 50 meters. So for them to copy a sniper rifle wouldn't have gone as far as it did.
Yeah. So of course this time Nezu doesn't take up a sniping position outside of the school, which is what ended up killing Shinpei last time. Because of we learned that they can fire up to 50 meters or so.
Yeah. So. And of course, what happens next is instead of running away from Heine and Shide, they instead just outright confront him with all the other shadows, just basically an army of shadows just following him into the school.
Yeah, they literally Shide and all the other shadows literally just walk up to the school and to face off against Shinpei.
Yeah, and eventually it's pretty much just consistently goes into an ongoing action sequence throughout the entirety of this episode. It just shifts our perspective to I guess 3 different groups of people. So we have I forgot his sister and
is it Tokiko or something?
Yeah, Tokiko alongside with real Mio going up against the shadow Mio. What's also surprising is Tokiko is still in command of those 2 giant baby shadows.
Yeah, although Heine at one point does try to regain control of the shadows, but as we discover later, Ushio is, I guess, able to stop her from doing that by severing the connection or something like that.
Yeah. So it seems all the other shadows are in a way connected to Heine under her control. But
yeah, it seems like it kind of functions like a hive mind.
Yeah. But thanks to Ushio, she's able to sever the connection, and those two shadows are basically working independently from Heine at this point. But you know, somehow are still taking orders from Tokiko, which is a little bit surprising. So then we also ship back to the perspective of like Shin and Ushio trying to run away from Shide and Heine, and Shide and Heine. And then of course, what was it? I think Ryunosuke is trying to stop, trying to hold off the other shadows. Well, at the same time, like I think Heine still has the advantage of like appearing like, I guess, a couple minutes into the future of like she literally tells one of the shadows to move to the left to avoid Ryunosuke's attack, and then Ryunosuke sees a vision that Shinpei is gonna get shot in the head, so she just moves in front of the bullet, the direction of the bullet.
Yeah, and then there's also one point where Shide is pretty much about to kill her, but gets shot by Nezu, who actually earlier on in the episode, Shide had like shot a pebble at him that ended up like kind of grazing him. It looked like it took out part of his ear, and it also took out his I guess the scope on his sniper rifle. So he's literally like firing at Shide, like just pretty much no scoping it, like he's just shooting without the scope, and is able to hit him.
Yeah, and I think there was something else going on at the same time. I mean, there was a lot that was going on in this episode.
I mean, they're also kind of trying to hold off the Shadow Mio as I guess at the entrance to the school, and I think like they almost get her at one point, but then she transforms or something, or she like somehow gets out of it.
They like a lot of the shadows transform into this like grotesque, like stretched out, like something.
I think some of them end up fusing with Shide.
Yeah, some of the, you know, like transformations kind of reminds you of like something you watched from John Carpenter's The Thing, in a way.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, some of the shadows end up merging with Shade, which transforms into this like giant looking shadow, and then it leads them back into the gymnasium, in the middle of the school. So they lure them there, and then Ushio uses pieces of her hair and transforms it into like a batch of oil, which Shinpei uses it to light them on fire.
Yeah, because as we learned, I guess the shadows are weak to fire. And it somewhat works on Shide, but it doesn't really end up finishing him off.
Yeah, and you know, of course, Shide manages to fire several shots at Shinpei, which ends up hitting him in the chest and his I guess his shoulder. And supposedly, it looks like Shinpei is about to die from this, but we find out that he has a bulletproof vest underneath it. And then at the same time,
and Shide is under the impression that he's actually about to die.
Yeah,
because of course he doesn't know about this.
Mm-hmm. And then Ushio, of course, tries to fend off both Heine and Shide, and then Shide like literally drags her into the fire. But I guess Ushio manages to fight, to hold him off against that, and then she literally tries to sever the connection between him and Heine. And then during the process, we see like a human-looking arm while she's severing the connection, but we don't really get to see the full, like the actual person inside of it until they.
I was really hoping we'd actually find out like who Shide is in this episode, but I guess they just kind of teased us with it because I'm wondering if it's somebody we've already been introduced to, like if it's a character we're supposed to know about.
I think
Like,
I think I might have an idea who it might be, but this is just a guess. But I probably won't spoil it in this episode.
Yeah.
As of just yet, because I'm just not 100% sure at this point. But yeah, so they somehow like Shinpei and the others managed to successfully fight off all the shadows, with everyone managing to stay alive, surprisingly.
Well, at one point we thought that Uchiho might have died, but it turns out she created a dummy of herself and ended up kind of getting advantage over Shide because of that.
Yeah, and of course by the end of the episode, we find out that they managed to capture the Shadow Mio, and then they're gonna use Uchiho to sever the connection between her and Haine.
Yeah, of course, Shide and Haine ended up getting away because Haine, what she created, she froze the air inside the gymnasium, and so that temporarily Shinpei wasn't able to breathe, and then ended up getting away with Shide. So yeah, so Shide right now, I guess, is of course under the impression that Shinpei is dying or is going to die. So I'm kind of curious as to how he's going to react once he figures out that Shinpei actually isn't dead, because as we know, he is of course is still alive, and they have captured Shadow Mio, and they're going to try to get her to join them. So yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen with that. I mean, of course, as we know this, I guess Shinpei technically has one more loop after this one. But I think he has made some significant progress. So I think maybe he doesn't have to worry too much about that. But I'm still not entirely exactly sure about how the mechanics of it work. Even though it has been explained, it's just kind of, I'm still a little bit unclear about certain things. But yeah, we did get a little bit more about how this looping ability of his works.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get some more info on that. Maybe, but I doubt it. I think they did the best they could to try to explain how it works. I mean, it's a little bit convoluted at times, but I think they tried their best to try to explain it in a more sensible way.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to believe that we're only about more than halfway through the series, but it really feels like, I mean, this episode kind of felt more like it was all, but we're actually getting close to the end of it. So it's kind of surprising to know there's still quite a bit more. I mean, there still is a lot of unanswered questions. So I'm assuming that.
Yeah, there's still the issue with So and Tokiko's father, who is directly working with the Shadow. So, and none of the main characters have ever interacted with him just yet. So I would assume that maybe after this episode, they'll finally get to confront So's father for the first time.
Yeah, and of course, there's the whole question of who Shide really is, and who Haine really is. Like, I feel like there's also a bit of a mystery as to what really happened to Shinpei's parents. Like, I feel like there's more to that, honestly, that we haven't really been told about yet. But yeah, I thought this is a really good episode. This is definitely one of the better ones, and I thought it was one of the most well animated episodes that I've seen so far. Like, some of the action scenes looked really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm really curious just to see where it's going to go from here. It's definitely been one of the better series that has come out recently. It's just kind of a shame that anybody that wants to watch it needs to kind of rely on third-party sites, and it's not really streaming. Since it's a Disney Plus exclusive, it's not really streaming on any other site.
Technically, it is streaming on Disney Plus, only if you're living in Japan.
Well, right. If you're in Japan, but if you're in the West, it's, you kind of have to, you pretty much have to rely on these sites to watch it. Which is a shame.
And some people have said that you can use VPN to get around that, but unfortunately, there is no subtitles.
Right. I mean, it would be kind of pointless unless you actually spoke Japanese.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a shame that I just don't know why like Disney like can't simply just unless there's certain obvious reasons as to why they can't. I mean, obviously maybe they don't have like a reliable translator or something, or they just don't have a way to properly input the subtitles into their shows.
Well, I mean, we also have to remember that Disney Plus doesn't really like. I mean, the only like anime thing that they've just, as far as I know, like they put out was Star Wars Visions. So like they're probably not used to the, I guess you'd say the business model of certain other streaming sites that stream anime exclusively, that they should be putting out like episodes weekly and having them translated and all that. So I guess they just haven't really figured that out yet. That's how it should work. There was, I mean, just look at how long Netflix kind of it took them to figure out that's probably what they should be doing. And even still, they kind of, there are some anime that they just it seems like they wait until all the episodes are out until they they put it out on their service.
Yeah, I mean, and plus the fact that it's already episode 15 of Summertime Rendering, and they've yet to make any announcements of possibly releasing the first core all at once, or if maybe it's. I think the most likely thing that Disney might end up doing is just waiting until like the entire show is done, and then
I think that's the most likely thing. It's gonna happen.
I mean, for Netflix, they've always released it like on every core. Well, for Disney Plus, I think, for obvious reasons, this is their first time even acquiring an anime series such as this, and I don't know if like they have any familiarity of how cores work or something. Or even they're even aware, like if it's the first core.
I just don't think they have any familiarity with it in general when it comes to like streaming anime or anime shows. I don't think they really even bothered to try to figure it out. Honestly, it just seems like more like laziness, because I just think they're just, like I said, they're just gonna wait, and then they're gonna, whatever they're gonna do, they're either gonna subtitle it or maybe even they'll dub it and then they'll put it out. I mean, who knows? It's just kind of we don't really know how they're going to handle it, because Visions is the only thing that that I guess we could really reference, but that was kind of different.
I mean, the only difference is that Visions was more of a collaborative effort between Disney and various studios.
Like I said, it's not really it's more of the exception, not like the rule or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how Disney is planning to handle it. And then of course, there's also the question of if they're going to censor it or not, even though it is, supposed to be for a mature audience. We know how Disney likes to do things. So, I mean,
well, here's the thing. I did go recently go to Barnes and Nobles to take a look at some of the pages on Summertime Rendering. There is technically some amount of nudity in the manga pages, while the ones that's shown in.
Actually, we could refer to this episode as well when it comes to that, because there is that one scene when Mio is transforming where she is nude, but it seems like a lot of it's obscured, so you can't really make out things. But I don't know if that's a censorship thing or if it's just meant to look like that. As we know, there are there's the TV broadcast versions of series that have some, I guess you would say, like interesting ways in which they would censor things, and then there's the Blu-ray versions where it's not censored. So it might be a case of that. I'm not sure. But there's also, but that's just mostly because of the I guess the broadcast laws or whatever for Japan when they broadcast certain shows at certain times, that there are things they can't show.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But honestly, it's just hard to having to wait like this long, because like a company like Disney and Netflix, keep doing these types of practices of like holding the anime series hostage until like it's over.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of unfortunately a thing with a lot of streaming services, where they'll just kind of it's either because it's exclusive to one streaming service or whatever. It's kind of people would say like Netflix jail or whatever, but that's kind of what's, I guess, what happens to certain shows that some people don't get exposed to because it's either an exclusive or it's not getting a physical release or whatever the case may be. Which really is unfortunate. I mean, there are definitely series I wish would have gotten a physical release. I'm kind of shocked hasn't gotten one yet, but yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about the episode. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
It was an amazing episode. I really loved how action packed this episode was and how well the animation was done in each sequence. Like particularly like the hallway sequence with Ryunosuke going up against the shadows. Like how the camera just pans like on almost 360 like.
Yeah, I did like that sequence where, like they were running through the hallway. That looked really good. That was definitely a standout sequence in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that all being said, guys, until next time, we will see you all later.